All right then, so now what we need to do is let's go ahead and start writing the JavaScript actions. So first what we need to do is we need to bring all those variables. So let's write the comments over here. So we need to bring all those variables, necessary variables for here. Then we need to bring all the necessary functions, which is going to be start the game. We need to bring the start the game function. Then we need to bring handle click function, the whenever you are clicking over here. So if you click it, we need to handle that click event, right? So handle click. So then we need to bring the swap player. So we need to bring the swap player function. Then we need to bring changing the board styles function. Then we need to bring check the user wins function, check the game draw function, then place the game user mark. So we need to place the game user mark X, O, Y, something like that. These are all the functions that we need to create. So let's go ahead and bring all those necessary variables in it. So first let's bring the X and O variables, which we created respectively in the styles.css, which is this. Let's bring it over here. So const X underscore class, which is going to be the X alone, then copy and paste it. And this is going to be O underscore class, which is going to carry the string called O. Save the changes. Then we need to bring all the winning combinations. So let's say const winning underscore combinations is equals to a multi-dimensional array. So let's break down this arrays over here, how these cells will be plotted in the multi-dimensional array. Basically this is 3 into 3 rows and columns. So let's break it down something like this. Array index will always start from 0. So 0, 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, then 6, 7, and 8. So this will be 0, 1, 2, and this will be 3, 4, 5, and this will be 6, 7, 8. So keep that in mind. So what are the winning possibilities? 1, 2, 3. If you mark X, X, X in a straight line, it will be you are the winner. So 1, 2, 3, and this will go the same 1, 2, 3. So 6 winning possibilities, and there are 2 more diagonals as well as. So 8 winning possibilities. So if the user marks the X in the 0 and 1 and 2, he's the winner, and it will go for the same in the all the diagonals and in the column wise and the row directions. So let's plot that winning combinations over here. So first winning combinations will be 0, 1, and 2. And then second winning combination will be 3, 4, and 5. And then third winning combinations will be 6, 7, and 8. And then the fourth winning combinations will be fourth winning combinations will be the diagonals. This diagonal 0, 4, 8. Sorry, this 0, 4, 8 and 2, 4, 6. So before moving on to the diagonals, let's go on column wise also. 0, 3, 6, 0, 3, 6. And then fifth 1, 4, 7. And then the last column 2, 5, and 8. And then the diagonal, the first diagonal, which is going to be 0, 4, and 8. And then the last diagonal, which is going to be 2, 4, 6. These are all the winning possibilities. Let's delete it and save these changes. So now we have the winning combinations array. Next, we need to bring all those cell elements. We need to bring the game board, then we need to bring the each cell elements, then we need to bring the restart buttons, and we need to bring the winner division and the winner text, all those cell elements. So let's access the board first. Copy this. So I'm going to access the board, game board, BOARD equals to, from the document, I'm going to access this by using its element by ID. So paste that ID over here. So save these changes now. All right. Okay, so now let's access the cell elements. Let's get back over here. So we're going to access the cell elements by using this custom attribute. Copy it. Const cell elements equals to, from the document I'm going to use the query selector all, which is basically helps you to access by using the document element name or class attribute or id attribute or even with custom attribute. So that will helps you to fetch all those matching elements from your document, not a single element. It will try to fetch all those matching elements. So in this case, we're going to use our custom attribute, which is going to be the data cell. So we're going to access every single division with the data cell attribute and keep it inside this variable. Perfect. Then what we need to do is we need to access the winner message element, this one, this particular division. Copy it, and right after here, const winner message element, which is going to be from the document dot get element by id. Open it, paste it, save it. Then we need to access the text, winner text inside here. So I'm just going to say const winner text equals to from the document dot query selector, not all, just use the query selector because we're going to fetch only one single element. Inside here, bring the string, use the custom square bracket to give the custom attribute. Okay, then we need to access the restart buttons. So let's bring those restart buttons. So copy this id and we need to access both the buttons. So restart buttons is equals to document dot query selector all, which is having this specific id. Okay, that's how you need to fetch that thing. So save this. These are all the elements which is necessary for us, and we need to have one more, which is going to be oturn, the second player's variable name, oturn. Okay, so now what I need to do, I need to start the game. So start the game, which this function which we haven't created. So let's go ahead and create the start the game. So let's create the function called start the game. So once this document is reloaded, this function needs to be automatically called, and this function needs to reset all these properties and keep the board as an empty and ready for playing purpose. Okay, so in order to do that, first what you need to do, we need to mark the second player turn as a false. So second player turn by default, it should be false because it is the first player's turn. Okay, so then for each and every cell elements, I'm gonna use the for each and I'm gonna access the cell out of it and create a function. So first from the class list, so from the class list, so this particular class list we are trying to access for each and every element. If the cell contains X or O, this specific classes, it doesn't matter. We need to simply remove these things from the entire class list. So class list dot remove whether it have X class or it have O class, it doesn't matter. We need to remove it first. Then we need to mark the inner text dot inner text should be as an empty string. Then we need to remove the click event listener from where? From that particular cell. Click. Whenever I'm clicking it, I'm going to have this handle click function. So that function is not exist. And so let's create that function, handle click, empty function. Okay. So oops, sorry, this is not an arrow function, this is just a normal function. So handle click. Then once you removed it, I'm going to add the same function because that function needs to listen. Whenever it's refresh, it should ready to listen to the click event. Then only you can place the X or 0, whatever it is, right? All right. Once all these things are done, we need to change the colors based on the players. So I'm going to create one more function called set board hover class function. Hover class function, which is not yet created. So let's go ahead and create that. So here, function set hoverboard class function. Now the issue will be solved. Then by default, we should not display that winner message element. So let's say winner message element dot style dot display. It's going to be none. Okay, this is what it's going to happen over here. Perfect. All right, so next what we need to do is basically, so all we have to do is to handle the click event. So because that is what happening over here, whenever you're clicking it, this function is going to get called because based on that only we are going to change the board colors and everything. So over here, I'm going to say board dot class list dot remove, open it, and I'm going to remove the X class or O class, whatever it is, copy and paste it. Why? Okay, so here it is. Perfect. So then what I need to do is right after here, I need to check the condition. If it is O turn, if that O turn is true, that means if the second player is active, what I need to do in the board class list, I need to add the X class. O class. If the second player is active, you need to add O class. Otherwise, else we need to add the X class. X class. Save it. Now check over here. Whenever I'm clicking it, see, now it is X. And if I click again, still it is X because we haven't swapped the player. But you get the point, right? So whenever we are clicking it, this is handle click event is being triggered. This function is empty, nothing happening, and it is calling this set hoverboard class. Currently, the O turn is false, so it is adding the X class. That's the reason we are getting the message, the X class over here. Okay, that is it is so far it is clear. Now, inside the handle click, whenever the user is clicking, we're going to access the event because we need to figure it out which cell it's been triggered that click event, right? So inside here, first I need to access that particular cell. So const cell is equals to, from the event, I'm going to access the targeted element. Okay. Then I'm going to get the current class, which is in that particular element. Current class. If the O turn is false, which if it is true means that first player class is successfully finished. So if the O turn is true, then use the O class. Otherwise, use the X class. Simply as that. Then I'm going to place the place mark, which is nothing but mark X or 0. So add cell and the current class. Okay. So I'm going to create this function now. Copy it. So here I'm going to say function place mark, open it. So this function helps you to mark the user X. So whenever you click it over here, you can see it's marking X0, something like this, right? So that's for that purpose only. So whenever you're clicking it, this function will help you to add in the cell dot class list, add that current class in it, O class or X class, whatever it is. So you will get that message as X or Y, whatever it is. Then cell dot inner text, which is going to be your current class. What is our current class? It's going to be either this X value or it's going to be the 0 value. So I'm going to change that current class to what? To uppercase. So if it is X class, then it will print X inside, just like that. So save these changes. And now if I click it, you should be able to see X. So it doesn't see every time when you click any cell, you can see it's keep on adding the cell X class in it and it's inserting the X text in it. Now only problem is we need to swap the turn. So in order to swap the turn, so right after this place, this is the place where that place mark function is being called. And this is the place where we need to check that possibilities. So what are the possibilities? Once you click it, for this game, we have only two possibilities. What is that? Either the user wins, it can be X or it can be O, or the both of the players or draw the match. So anyone should win the match, that is one possibility, or the game should draw, that's a second possibility. If none of this happen, what we need to do, we need to keep on swap the players, XO, 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 something like that. In order to do that, what we need to do is first we need to check whether the user win the match or not. So I'm going to create a new function called check win, and I'm going to pass the current class into it. So let's open the function. If the user wins the match, this particular line of code will be executed. Otherwise, I need to check the second possibility whether the match is draw or not. So is draw. That's a function. That is also going to return you a Boolean value. If none of them happen, what we need to do, we need to keep on swap the player. That's the function. Otherwise, you can simply say swap the turns. Swap the turn. Okay, and I'm going to change the board color according to the swap. So let's go ahead and create the swap the turn function. So I'm going to create that function called swap turn normal function. So it's very simple how to swap it. So if O turn, whatever the O turn is, assign the exact opposite value. If it is true, assign false. If it is false, assign true. Simply as that. So save it. Now, if I click this, it is X. If I click this, still it is X. How come? That is not supposed to happen. Mm, mm, mm. Oturn, oturn. That is an error. Check win. Okay, that is an error in this because we don't have these functions. That's what I'm wondering, because see, it's showing this check win is not defined. Of course, it is not yet created. So let's copy that function, copy it. And over here, let's create that function. Otherwise, this error will not go. Let's create that empty function. So function name is wrong. Function. Then let's create one more function called isDraw. So let's copy this function also. Otherwise, you will get the message as the whenever you're clicking, it shows isDraw is not defined. So let's create one more function. Function isDraw. Open it. Okay, and of course there is one more function that we have to create, which is whether the game is ended or not, which is the end game. End game. Okay, so don't worry about that, we'll worry about that later. Now if you click it, we don't have any issues. So this is extern. Now it should print O. You can see that the color is also changed according to that. And if you check the elements over here, see the first class is X, marked as X, and the last cell is marked as O. And now if I click X, you can see now the X turn is completed. Whose turn it is? It is O turn. Now you can see that it's changing to O. So that's the reason we are changing the O hoverboard over here, right? So this is how you can play the game. So now you can see this is in the winning possibility. Now we need to stop the game because the X wins the game, right? And that is what we need to do now. Okay. So now we are calling the check win function. So inside the check win function, we need to check whether this X, all these X values are in the winning combinations or not. So let's go ahead. So we need to loop through each and every cell element, and we need to figure it out what is the class of that specific element. So if that element consists this X classes in the winning combinations in that specific combination, if it is having the same class, then that user is win the match. That is what we need to do. That is what we need to figure it out now, how to do that. So inside the check win, now what I'm going to do, const has one, open it. So here I'm going to get the winning combination array, and I'm going to use the sum function dot sum. So basically this sum function determines whether the specified callback function return true or not. Just true alone, when only if all the element condition matches that given callback conditions. Okay, so here I'm going to fetch out that combination out of it, open the function, then I'm going to return each cell. So from in this combination, I'm going to fetch every individual index out of it, index. So that should return. So each cell elements, so that in that cell elements, I'm going to access that index, that specific index. So if I'm checking the first combination, what are the cell index will be 0, 1 and 2. So if all these 0, 1 and 2 contains the same classes in its class list, then it will be marked as the winner. Okay, so now we're going to access this index. Then I'm going to check class list dot contains that current class, whatever that. So when I click X, if the X is in the all the index of the winning combination, then it will be marked as a winner. Okay, that is what happening over here. If not, it is going to return as false. If it is going to return as true. When if it is true, then the game will be finished over here. Otherwise, it will go for checking for this next function. So save it. And at the end, you need to return this guy outside. So return has one. Save it. Okay. And right inside here, if the game wins, if the user wins, what you need to do? That is the most important thing. If the user wins, then I need to say end the game, and I'm going to send the value as false. If false means who wins, we can simply assign the value. If the false wins, that means if you're saying if it is false, what's happening? That means the game is draw. If not, someone wins the message. Okay, when All right, so you will understand. Well, right now, if I am explaining, if I try to say false or true, if you are assembling in, if you are starting to do some assumptions based on this, then it will confuse you. So far, let's leave it as it is. So let's say end game as true over here. Okay, if the game is draw, that means it is true. We are sending as true. If the game is not draw, which means it's false. Why it is false? Because someone wins the game. That's the reason it's false. Okay. I hope now I make it clear. Now we need to go for the second function is draw. So in this function, we need to figure it out whether the match is draw or not. So let's go ahead. Const draw is equals to we need to spread out each and every cell elements. So in order to access every element of that specific combinations of that specific cell elements, then you can access that cell out of it, open it, then return cell dot class list dot contains. If it is contains this x class or cell dot class list dot contains o underscore class. We need to figure it out whether any one class is there or not. Okay, which means each and every cell class contains either of this or this, not repeated. Okay, if either that or that, in that situation the user draws the match completely. Okay, which means this one is x and this one is o, x o, x o, x o, x o, no repeated value, something like that. Okay, x o, x o, o, x. So this point is win now. So in that combinations only that we are trying to figure it out, that specific thing. Okay, perfect. And now all we have to do is right back over here. So we need to jump into the end game now, because we finished this and now we need to return this draw. So if the user wins, it is going to return true. If it is true, then it is going to return the value as what? End game as false, which means the game is not draw, someone wins the match. If it is user draws the match, then we are sending the function as true, which means the match draw. So you need to simply print the match as draw. So for this here, I'm going to get the status true or false, whatever it is. So here I'm going to check if the status is equals to false, which means someone wins the match. Okay, if the status, so instead of, you don't need to check that like equals to false or true, we can directly use the status. If the status is true, then it's going to open the first condition and it's going to say winner text dot inner text is going to be draw, user draws the match. Otherwise we need to say winner text dot inner text, which is going to be dynamic string literals. If it is o turn, then we need to print the message as o win the match. Otherwise x wins the match, something like this. Okay, then what I need to do, either way I need to bring that winner element, message element style to display, and it's going to be block. Save the changes. And now let's get back to the console. No issues. X O, and I mark the X, and you can see that X wins the game. Perfect. Now we need to restart the game. So in order to restart the game, what we need to do is move right after here. We need to add this code in order to restart the game. Oops, restart, not restart. Yes. So restart buttons dot for each button out of it. I'm going to access the button out of it, and I'm going to add the button dot add event listener, open it. Then I'm going to say click event. Then I'm going to call that start the game. Every time whenever a user wants to restart the game, if you click this, and we are going to call the start the game method, because it is going to reset everything inside in it. So if I click it and if I click restart, it's going to restart. Or even if I won the match, XOXO, see, O wins the match. So, and if I click over here or here, it's going to restart the match. All right. So this is all about your actions in our tic-tac-toe game. So we successfully finished a tic-tac-toe game by using plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right. And later we're going to deploy all this project at the end of this session, because still we do have two more projects. So we need to finish that. Then finally we can deploy all those things separately. And I'm going to show you how to deploy and make this website completely live. All right. Perfect.